My name is Marshall and this is Waveform. When I'm first starting to explore a new open world game, one of the first things I do is mute the music. It's not because I hate game soundtracks, it's just without all the music, you can really appreciate the little sound design details that go into the world. Listen. See how much more immersive that feels? Now you can hear the leather armor rustling and other townspeople chatting nearby. When it comes to immersion in games, audio is pretty much king, but don't take my word for it.
Having lots of ambience, lots of the foliage, background sounds, having everything dialed down and just at the right point where you feel like there's this rich world that's around you that you can't quite put your finger on where any one sound is coming from, but you feel like you're there.
So this video is supposed to be about sound design in open world games, but that's just too huge a topic to cover in depth in one video, so I'm going to break it down into some manageable chunks. First, you have to find your seed. This is probably the most important part of an entire sound project, and it happens before you even turn on the computer. It happens on paper. So what is a seed? I think it's best to explain by example. Here's audio director and sound designer Mark Lampert about finding the seed for Skyrim.
I'll start out with some idea. Oh, it's cold sounding or Nordic. It's cold and rocky and icy. Let's do everything with that in mind. Any wooden kind of sounds you hear, doors, drawers, things you step on, everything is creaky and a little more chewed up and rough than it was in Oblivion.
Once you've found your seed or your inspiration, all the decisions you make in sample selection and recording become more meaningful because they all point to your end goal. Here I've made a mock-up of 2 sound effects you could use for leveling up your character. If you were a sound designer on Skyrim, which one would you put in the game? I'd pick number 1. It sounds more like Mark was describing, but number 2 might be better for another project with a different atmosphere. There's no real correct answer to this question, but if you can make all of these decisions with your seed in mind, you'll notice the game world starting to build itself. Nothing will stand out as strange or out of place. Even games by the same company in the same genre can have totally different seeds. Skyrim is cold, weathered, and chewed up. Oblivion was fantastical, noble, enchanting. Fallout 4 is dusty and bleak. Fallout 3 was dusty and bleak. Now let's talk about dialogue. In some games like Fallout 4, almost no conversations are mandatory. You can just decide to walk away from someone at any moment, exactly the way it is in real life. This gives the player the freedom to pursue what they're interested in, rather than sitting through a conversation that's boring them.
Got my hands full here. Do you think you could go help out the settlement?
Oh, good. I was hoping for a chance to rescue some more helpless villagers.
But even more important than leaving a conversation, we can start a conversation with anyone we want as well. You can stumble upon a small village in Fallout 4 and just talk to someone about their life and what rumors have been going around town.
Nothing like that.
Whether or not players even do that doesn't matter. It's the fact that we know we can do it that brings a feeling of authenticity to the world. Ambient dialogue also happens more in open world games than any other genre. As you walk through different areas, characters chat with each other, occasionally revealing some small part of the history of that place.
Another murder by the horrid beast! Milton the Peyrak Peyran falls victim to his own cowardice.
I love dialogue like that. It makes you feel like the town keeps functioning even when you turn the game off. In newer games, between ambient dialogue, conversational dialogue, and voiceovers, there's an absolutely insane amount of lines to be recorded. The script for The Witcher 3 is reported to have over 450,000 words. That's 4 times the length of the average novel. A senior writer for that game even said that the vocal directors were, quote, masters of the human psyche and heart.
Let's start.
Dialogue and sound effects together are what makes open world games so interactive and dynamic.
Nice tune.
What does dynamic audio even mean? Well, open world games have to adapt to our choices because we can go wherever we want, do whatever we want, and talk to whoever we want. which means there needs to be a sound for everything. We're talking tens of thousands of sounds, including dialogue.
You know, in Oblivion, we had like 12 actors, and that was one of the complaints, is you walk into Oblivion and you hear a lot of the same voices.
And in this game, we have 70 plus actors doing over 110 roles. A lot more than we've ever had.
What if the player wants to put on heavy armor? How will that change the way the footsteps sound on the dozens of different types of surfaces in the game? What if this upgraded bow looks like it's made of a strange material? How will that change the way the draw sounds? All of those things are taken into consideration. It can require dozens of layers to create even the most unsuspecting of sound effects.
This is the dwarven sphere. So he rolls along in this kind of armored ball like an armadillo, and then when the player happens upon him, I like to work with it in sort of 3 layers, like your low frequency, the bass stuff that adds all the sense of weight, something kind of mid-rangey where all the meat of the sound is, and then stuff like this high frequency stuff. It makes it sound clanky and like there are these intricate mechanical parts to him. This is what it's started off from. I may end up using this for some other creature's walking motion, mixing it in with something very heavy, and it'll sound like a giant suit of armor, or something for the player perhaps.
It's really easy to see how things can get out of hand fast, but sound doesn't just adapt to our choices. It can influence the way we play as well. Even just riding along a dirt path in The Witcher, we can hear a swamp nearby, subtly reminding us that beyond the edges of our screen, there's so much more to discover.
Let's go.
I'm sure you've heard this cliche before, but it couldn't be more true now. When a sound design team gets all of these elements exactly right, the player shouldn't notice the sounds at all.
Sometimes the best sounds in our games, at least from our point of view, are the ones that you don't hear or you don't notice, because part of immersion is detail and not drawing the player out of it.
Sound design may not be as glamorous a job as being an artist or a developer, but it's just as important and should be given as much attention. Let's recap. First, you have to find your seed. Then, build and expand your world with dialogue. And last, make sure there's a sound for every possible interaction and area in the game.
This is gonna go great.
Oh, and I'm the type of guy who will never settle down. Where pretty girls are, well, you know that I'm around.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any ideas of games or sound design topics that you want to see me cover in these videos, then just leave a comment. Thanks.